They said Earth's pets were harmless, until the human brought a cat into class. The Interspecies Academy's Animal Behavior Studies classroom was designed to accommodate the most diverse collection of students in the galaxy. Specialized seating. Pods for the aquatic nephrids sat alongside temperature-controlled zones for the crystalline zephyrians, while the ceiling-dwelling arachnoids observed from their silk platforms above. Professor Kethvax, a distinguished mantarin whose 4 arms gestured elegantly as she spoke, was in the middle of her weekly lecture on domesticated companions across the galaxy. Her compound eyes reflected the holographic displays showing various species' attempts at animal domestication. As we can observe, she clicked through her translator. True domestication requires the subject species to pose minimal threat to their caretakers. The Vrelian silkworms, for instance, were specifically chosen for their complete inability to harm their handlers. Dr. Sarah Martinez sat quietly in the human section, a modified area with standard gravity and atmosphere controls. At 32, she was one of the few human professors at the Academy, specializing in Earth's unique approach to animal companionship. Her presence here was part of the cultural exchange program, though many colleagues viewed her research as quaint rather than scientifically valuable. The human approach to domestication appears to be an anomaly, Professor Kethvax continued, her tone carrying the subtle dismissiveness that Sarah had grown accustomed to. Their so-called pets seem to serve no practical purpose, existing purely for what they term emotional support. Zrixtar, a towering Saurian student whose species had conquered 3 star systems through pure military might, let out a rumbling laugh. Humans and their weakness for soft, useless creatures. My homeworld's warhounds could tear through steel plating, yet these Earth pets cannot even hunt their own food. Other students joined in with various forms of alien amusement. The consensus was clear. Humans had somehow managed to domesticate the weakest, most pathetic animals in the galaxy. Sarah raised her hand. Professor, I believe there might be some misconceptions about Earth's domesticated animals. Perhaps a practical demonstration would be more illuminating than theoretical discussion. Professor Kethvax's antennae twitched with what Sarah had learned to recognize as condescension. Dr. Martinez, while I appreciate your enthusiasm, I hardly think bringing one of your pets to an academic setting would prove educational. The safety protocols alone. Actually, Sarah interrupted gently. I have already received approval from the Academy's Xenobiology Safety Committee. They concluded that Earth pets pose no significant threat to any known sentient species. The irony of that statement would become clear very shortly. The next day, Sarah entered the classroom carrying a standard Earth pet transportation carrier. The students had gathered early, curious to see what manner of weak, helpless creature humans had somehow convinced themselves was worth caring for. Class, Sarah announced, setting the carrier on her desk. I'd like you to meet Mr. Whiskers. She opened the carrier's door. What emerged was, by human standards, an entirely ordinary domestic cat. Mr. Whiskers was a large orange tabby, weighing roughly 6 kilograms, with the typical feline grace and piercing green eyes. He stretched, languidly, surveyed his new environment with calculated interest, then sat down and began grooming himself with complete indifference to the room full of alien observers. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. Disappointment. That's it? Zrixtar rumbled. It's smaller than my hatchlings were. Look how it grooms itself obsessively, chittered Vexnal, an insectoid Krillian. Clearly a neurotic creature bred for dependency. It doesn't even acknowledge our presence, observed Silthan, a ethereal Celestian whose species communicated primarily through bioluminescence. No social awareness whatsoever. Sarah smiled. Mr. Whiskers is indeed a typical example of Felis catus, the domestic cat. Before we discuss his behavioral patterns, perhaps you'd like to observe his physical capabilities. I've prepared a few simple demonstrations. She produced a small toy, a feathered object attached to a string, and began moving it slowly across the floor. The change in Mr. Whiskers was instantaneous and shocking. One moment he was a lounging, seemingly lazy creature. The next he was a precision-engineered killing machine. His pupils dilated to black circles, His body dropped into a perfect hunting crouch, and every muscle coiled with predatory tension. Then he struck. The explosion of movement was so sudden that several students instinctively activated their personal defense shields. Mr. Whiskers moved like liquid lightning, covering 3 meters in a single bound. His paws struck the toy with accuracy that would make a military sniper weep, claws extending and retracting in milliseconds. But it was his eyes that truly unnerved the alien observers. Those green orbs held an intelligence that was ancient, calculating, and utterly without mercy. Fascinating, Professor Kethvax said, though her voice had lost its earlier confidence. It shows remarkable speed for such a... Mr. Whiskers chose that moment to demonstrate another aspect of feline behavior. A small flying maintenance drone happened to buzz past the classroom window. The cat's head snapped toward it with mechanical precision, his pupils tracking the movement with the focus of an advanced targeting system. Then he chirped. It was a sound that every human would recognize, the excited chittering cats make when they spot prey they can't quite reach. But to the alien students who had no context for this behavior, it sounded like something far more sinister. Zrixtar, whose species had evolved from apex predators, felt something he hadn't experienced since childhood, the instinctive recognition of a superior hunter. Dr. Martinez, Professor Kethvax said carefully, perhaps you could explain your pet's behavioral patterns? Sarah nodded, gently retrieving the toy as Mr. Whiskers continued his predatory stalk around the classroom. Certainly. You see, cats weren't actually domesticated in the traditional sense. They essentially domesticated themselves, choosing to live alongside humans because it was convenient for their hunting. She gestured to Mr. Whiskers, who had now focused his attention on Pipsqueak, a small, nervous creature from Tremor 7. The cat wasn't being aggressive. He was simply watching with the intense focus of a predator evaluating potential prey. Cats are what we call facultative carnivores, Sarah continued. They literally cannot survive without meat. Their entire physiology is designed for hunting. Those retractable claws? Perfectly evolved for gripping and tearing. Their teeth are designed to deliver precise killing bites. Their spine is so flexible they can rotate nearly 180 degrees, and their muscle-to-body mass ratio exceeds that of most Earth predators. Zrixtar was starting to look distinctly uncomfortable. But surely, after generations of domestication, they've lost their killer instinct. Mr. Whiskers chose that moment to demonstrate the answer. He had been steadily stalking a maintenance bot that was cleaning the floor. With a casual leap that defied the Academy's artificial gravity, he landed directly on the robot, wrestling it to the ground with his hind legs while delivering rapid-fire strikes with his front paws. The maintenance bot, designed to withstand the wear and tear of serving multiple species, sparked and went offline under the assault. The classroom fell silent except for the sound of Mr. Whiskers purring, a deep, rumbling sound that, Sarah realized, probably sounded rather ominous to species unfamiliar with it. The purring, Silthan whispered, "Is that a threat display?" "Actually," Sarah said cheerfully, "that means he's happy. Cats purr when they're content. The frequency, around 25 to 50 hertz, actually promotes bone healing and reduces blood pressure in humans. We find it soothing." "You find the sound of a satisfied predator soothing?" Professor Kethvax's voice had climbed several octaves. "Oh yes. In fact, humans often seek out cats specifically because we enjoy their hunting behaviors. We give them toys that simulate prey, encourage them to stalk and pounce, and many humans find it relaxing to watch their cats hunt." Mr. Whiskers had finished dismantling the maintenance bot and was now sitting calmly, grooming his paws with the satisfied air of a job well done. To him, this was just Tuesday. Pipsqueak, the small Tremorian, raised a trembling appendage. "Doctor, Martinez, exactly how many of these apex predators do humans typically keep in their homes?" "Well, I personally have 3 cats," Sarah replied, "though some humans keep dozens. We call them crazy cat ladies, and it's considered charming." "Dozens?" Zrixtar's usually commanding voice cracked. "You keep dozens of these creatures in your living spaces?" "Some do, yes. And that's just cats. We also domesticated wolves, which we call dogs. Some of those are considerably larger than Mr. Whiskers. The implications were sinking in. A species that not only cohabitated with predators but actively bred them, fed them, and apparently found their hunting behaviors endearing was either incredibly brave or completely insane. "There's something else you should know," Sarah added, scratching Mr. Whiskers behind the ears as he purred louder. "Cats don't actually need us. Unlike other domesticated animals, they're perfectly capable of reverting to wild behavior within a single generation. They choose to live with us." Choose? Professor Kethvax's compound eyes were now focused entirely on Mr. Whiskers, who was, gazing back with that unblinking stare that cats do so well.